So, in the last video, I had some people asking, hey, if he became a scientist, I might want to be a scientist. And how did you do it? So, I'm here to answer your questions. First things first is I kind of recognized when I was a kid, I was good at science. I think it was probably in elementary school, but probably middle school when you started taking some actual science courses. I was like, this stuff is cool. I like this. I like questioning stuff. I like learning about how the world works and how the nature around me works. So in middle school, I started taking some science courses, and then when you get to pick your own classes in like high school, I started focusing more on it. I took my chemistries, took my biologies, took my earth science, took my physics, but chemistry is the one that really grasped me. So I started taking honors level chemistry into college level chemistry as I took a course through Syracuse University as a junior in high school, which also looked good on the college resume, but we'll get to there. So as I am going through my high school career, I'm focusing more on sciences, getting to know more of the basic structure of how science works and how all the different, I don't know, we'll call them categories of science relate to each other. Then junior and senior year of high school come and you need to start thinking more about college. I'm recognizing I'm not just enjoying science, but I'm also good at it. I think that there's a good career availability in science. And let's be honest, being called a scientist, that's a really cool job title. At least I think so. So I would go to my college, tiny little school, New Hampshire, outside of Manchester, New Hampshire, St. Anselm College. And at first, I became a chemistry major. If you're just watching this now, as like maybe a kid or somebody who's going into college, it's really, really cool and easy to want to be a chemistry major. It's a lot harder to actually be a chemistry major. You're taking a lot of math, a lot of physics, a lot of science. Numbers need to be a second language to you. And as much as I love science, I also wanted to enjoy college lifestyle, if you will. I wanted to make some friends. I wanted to not be in the library 80 hours a week studying. And I think I recognized that when I was going into organic chemistry. I got through organic chemistry 1, but organic chemistry 2 was just impossible for me. So I ended up swapping my major over to forensic science. Still able to maintain that scientific base, but also realizing that you can apply science into more than just science field, and I was able to apply it into a criminal justice field. Very, very cool. You see how different DNA is held, how people can study different evidence pieces and come up with different outcomes for maybe a crime or a situation, or just to use science as a problem-solving skill. So I was able to get my degree in forensic science and maintain a minor in chemistry, which really, really helped me as my career has progressed. Graduated college and went to go apply to the forensic science field. And I'm not sure if it's still like this, but I'm willing to assume that it is. The CSI, NCIS crime show bubble was booming and the field was wildly saturated. And I remember I applied to a job and I didn't hear anything back. So I called up the agency and said, hey, look, I applied to this job. I haven't heard anything. I was wondering if you could let me know if I'm expecting to hear anything. And they said, oh no, actually we've conducted our interviews. We've actually already selected our candidate. But just for your own personal reference, there was 2 positions available, and they had 400 applicants for those 2 positions. So as soon as I heard that number, I said, okay, I need to start expanding this search. And fortunately for me, there was a beverage science company not too far from where I was staying at the time. And I had reached out to some recruiters, and fortunately enough, they were able to get me in there, not as a full-time scientist, not even as a full-time employee. I had to be a contractor first. And I contracted and I made soda on the lab bench for 9 months until I was able to get hired full time. So I went from a product development contracting role into a different role, which was more long-term ingredient research. Again, questioning everything. What are we making? How are we going to make it? Is it going to apply to the needs that we need? Really asking the who, what, when, where, why, how. Really asking if we do this, how does that play out? Applying the scientific method and experimenting and experimenting and experimenting, and not being afraid to get things wrong and actually analyzing the wrong, no matter how hard it might have been, because we knew it would help us get towards the right, get us through to the final goal. I had to keep in mind, I believe it was Thomas Jefferson had said, maybe it was Edison. I probably should know that one. They know 10,001 ways how to not make a light bulb. And I really had to keep that one in mind in my ingredient research days. Fortunately, we found out a way how to meet our goal. And then after that, I was able to change teams back onto a product development role. Whereas here I was making, rather than soda in a can, I was making soda in a bag for some restaurants that use fountain machines. And I made a lot of different formulas for international places. But again, I still wasn't a scientist then. At first I was a technician into a senior laboratory technician. So again, really just being honed and groomed into learning how to become a scientist. And then I became an associate product developer, still not quite a scientist. I was being managed and being told, this is what our goals are, this is how you do it, now go and execute it. I was able to execute my manager's ideas, but I wasn't quite really allowed to have my own ideas. I had to gather a lot of information for my manager, and then they would direct me in the way that they felt was the best way to go forward. So I was able to put my 2 cents in there, but again, executing my manager's ideas to get the outcome that they needed. But I was able to prove my excellence in execution and get promoted to another new role. And this is the role that I'm currently in, where after 7 years of building my career, right here, mind the 7 years, 4 years of school. Oh, and I snuck a master's degree in there as well. 11 years in the making, 2 degrees later, and I've finally been titled a scientist. And with this, I'm really now able to apply all my learnings that I've learned in college, that I've learned in high school, that I've learned in middle school, that I've learned in my career, the questioning, the understanding the goal, and how to turn an idea into a physical product. And remember, we're asking the who, what, when, where, why, how. We're creating hypotheses. We are testing hypotheses. We are reviewing the results, whether we think that they're right or whether we know that they're wrong. As a scientist, you really, really need to be able to look at things objectively and not take a scientific, quote unquote, failure as a failure. You have to really look at it and say, okay, what can we learn from this? You have to be able to pick out the learnings from every situation, no matter how many times you might get it wrong, because you don't need to be right every single time as a scientist, at least when you're experimenting and creating something that's never been created before. Because there's no right way to do it. Nobody's ever done it before. There's a reason why you're trying to figure out something that's never been done before. You only need to be right the one time to get it right. And you have to really be persistent and goal-oriented and keep your head down and observe everything going on around you and keep going forward even when it's not easy. And that's part of the reason why I enjoy being a scientist, and I still enjoy being a scientist, because it teaches you a lot about how to deal with life problems as well. There's a lot of things that go on in our everyday lives that, again, they demoralize, they beat down. It's hard to keep the head up and hard to remember why we're doing some of the things that we're doing, why we're saving up to go to school, why we're saving up to get a car, why we're learning new skills, why we're testing out, why we're trying to make new friends. Again, none of these things are easy. But it's important to remember to keep the head down and to just keep trying, even when it's not easy to do it. Because again, you don't need to have it be right every single time. You just need it to be right once. And that one time, that one experience can open up a new door, and all of a sudden life will blossom after it. So how did I become a scientist? With a lot of different failures. But why do I maintain being a scientist? Because it helps me not just be a great scientist and not just a flashy job title. I don't just take pride in it, but it makes me a better person, I think, at least. So anybody out there that might be wondering, oh, I guess science for me, or oh, why am I still a scientist, right? After all of this, I hope this can give you a little bit of insight into why one scientist continues to be a scientist. Understand the road's not easy, but understand the road is worth it. To any of my fellow scientists out there, comment down below. Do you have any stories that relate to this? Do you have any times where you're like, oh wow, I kept getting it wrong and wrong and wrong until I got it right? Or if you're a normal person out there and have a personal story about how you kept getting it wrong until you got it right, comment it down below, share it down there. Maybe you'll find somebody who can relate to you and who you can relate with. If you want to hear more about science, I love science, so keep sending the questions my way. Again, down in the comments. If you enjoy my science content or just my story times in general, comment, like, subscribe. Again, those numbers really, really help me out to understand if I'm hitting the right targets, my right people. Again, as I said back in my introduction video, I'm out here looking for my people that are similarly minded, like-minded. And if you're one of the people that are like-minded with me, let me know. Like my videos, comment on my videos, subscribe to my videos. It really helps me know if I'm meeting my goals. And again, I hope to succeed here on YouTube, and I hope you enjoy the journey with me. Peace and love, and I'll see you in the next one.